I'll give you the thing about Russia on heading the Security Council. They're not really going to sanction themselves because they're going to say, well, we need to go to the General Assembly. Like, really? Still? The UN? They're dead to us. They are no good to us. We have to forge on without them.
Earlier this week, the New York Times, who I'm not in the usual business of praising, had this very detailed account of how Russia was denounced by all of our allies at the UN Security Council. The last line of the article was, and then the council adjourned, taking no action. Right. I think it was just this like, yes, okay, we can all go there and we can say this is terrible. And you saw a lot of that last night. Like, I think the Ukrainian ambassador, when the Russian ambassador was insisting that, or I think they called for de-escalation, and the Ukrainian ambassador holds up his phone and saying, here's Putin announcing they're invading, kind of this ridiculous.
Right. He's not listening to you. This is absurd. Like as you point out, we brought sanctions to a gunfight. Like even sanctions aren't going to do it. Never mind some condemnation. And by the way, this just crossing the wires, Jim, per Reuters, Chernobyl power plant captured by Russian forces, citing an advisor to a Ukrainian presidential office. It'll be the first of many reports we hear along those lines as they move further inward.
Megyn, on camera, I'm afraid I'm going to turn into a meme. This is bad. This is really bad. And you might be thinking, like, why would Russia go there? Well, if you look at a map, first of all, Belarus, which is kind of this, crony state, sidekick state to Vladimir Putin's Russia. A whole bunch of Russian troops went into Belarusian territory for joint military exercises, which fairly obviously were a preparation to invade Ukraine from another front.
And just to pause you, Jim, we're putting the map up there. Belarus is right next to Ukraine. It's by Poland, and it's another country that apparently is much more friendly to Russia because we're getting reports that they're helping Russia out with respect to this attack. I think a lot of Americans never even heard of Belarus prior to today, so it's just just to get our bearings. It's there, and it's not really helpful to us at the moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Lukashenko, who's been called the last dictator in Europe over there. He's kind of Putin's mini-me. Just picture a guy who goes along with everything Russia wants to do, gets a lot of financial support from Russia, and basically sees himself as Putin's sidekick. Well, the shortest distance between this is where I wish I had my John Madden telestrator here. The shortest distance between a Ukrainian border and Kiev is coming down from Belarus. And of course, the Chernobyl exclusion zone, where the nuclear power plant was and where all the radiation was back in 1986. Is right in that area. So it's one of those things where a lot of people, I've seen people asking, why would Russian troops even go anywhere near that? Well, it's in the way. Now, you could go around it, and Lord knows if I was commanding troops, I wouldn't want them going anywhere near those places with that kind of radiation. Russia, but basically, if there's anything we've learned, if you ever watched that Chernobyl miniseries on HBO, is that Russians don't worry about radiation the way the rest of us do. They're kind of laid back about that in a way that sometimes gives them that warm, glowing feeling a little later on.
It's true. It's very true. So, all right, so let's just talk about, yes, we brought sanctions, and that's what we expect Joe Biden to say in moments as soon as he takes to the mics, that we're going to be giving the super severe sanctions. I mean, we sort of withheld some, we trickled some out, and we're going to trickle more out, and now this should be the super severe sanctions. But what's that going to look like? And realistically, what could it look like that would make him hurt, right? Like that would actually hurt him in terms of the money.
Yeah. Before I tear into our president during a ongoing foreign policy crisis, I'll begin by saying something a little bit nice. I think Biden has focused on this. I think he has really tried. I think he's met with foreign leaders and been communicating with them recently. I think he's been trying to galvanize NATO to create a unified, tough response to this. I think fairly obviously it failed. It did not succeed, and I don't know if Biden's the kind of guy who's capable of doing this. But I'll give him a few points for trying. I do note that, and I wrote about this at pretty considerable length this morning in my newsletter, The Morning Jolt. All winter long, Biden, Anthony Blinken, Vice President Harris, they all kept using this phrase, swift and severe sanctions. We're going to unleash sanctions on him like he's never seen. These are the strongest sanctions we've ever seen. And so you kind of created these expectations of, okay, this should really be something. When they unveiled them this week, the first thing is they said they're going to come out in tranches, little groups. They could have just used the term little groups. I don't know why they use the term tranches, but whatever. And there weren't nothing. I mean, they were targeting the two banks that are closest to the Kremlin and Russian military, targeted a couple oligarchs and their family members, and they made it tough for Russian sovereign debt. Those are steps, and I'm not going to say it's nothing. But the first thing is that if you're doing it in tranches or small groups, well, then it's not swift and severe. If you're saving some for later, if you're saying, well, later we're going to use we might do some of this stuff later on. The big one that everybody wanted to talk was the SWIFT financial banking system. Basically, it's how you move money from one country to another. And we did this once against the Iranians, and it basically, could really have a huge impact on a country's economy. As of this morning, or before we started having this conversation, Megyn, it sounded like a couple of European countries, including Germany, did not want to go forward with this.
What a shock.
And I'm looking at and I'm sort of thinking, like, what are you waiting for? Mushroom clouds? This is a full-scale invasion. Like, what, it's not bad enough for us to cut off Russian banks from the rest of the world? It was that step is mind-boggling. There were a whole bunch of other gestures that are not necessarily gut punches, but I think are useful in symbolism. Back in 1983, Ronald Reagan, after the Russians shot down Korean Airlines passenger jet 007, they blocked Aeroflot, the Russian airlines, from landing in U.S. flights. And I think right before we started having this conversation, the United Kingdom announced they were taking that step. We could expel the children of Russian oligarchs and Russian government officials that are studying in American universities and colleges. And we may do this. We just didn't do this, a couple of days ago when it might have had more impact. Blocking Russian oil and gas imports. We have been importing a lot more oil and gas from Russia over the past year, and that is extraordinarily frustrating. And I can't help but think that one of the reasons Putin is walking around and feeling so cocky is because world energy prices are so high, and his position as an oil and gas exporter gives him more financial leverage over Europe and stuff like that. Oh, by the way, I'm glad we put sanctions on the companies that were building the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Again, a day late and a dollar short, because once Russia controls the pipelines that are currently running through Ukraine, they don't need Nord Stream 2 nearly as much as they did before.
Can you just expand on that? Because I think most people haven't been following that closely. I understand Nord Stream 2 is bad because that gets energy from Russia to Germany and keeps Russia's coffers filled. But his backdoor plan doesn't seem to mind, because if he controls Ukraine, then what? Go ahead and expand on that.
Yeah. So for a long while, U.S. officials looked at this and said, this doesn't look good. This is going to, this will be great for Germany if you like being dependent upon Russia for your energy. If you don't like that, then this is a terrible idea. Unfortunately, Gerhard Schroeder, the former German chancellor, is serving on the board of a Russian energy company. Oh, picture a former president going and taking a job on like a Chinese energy company or something like that. That kind of would be the equivalent there. And Angela Merkel thought this was a terrific idea. And this is, by the way, this helps them shut down nuclear plants. This allows them to, in their mind, well, we're going green because the oil and gas isn't coming from us. It's coming from somewhere else. I don't think that is a terribly great long-term thinking there. But for a while, the U.S. was trying to pressure them. The Trump administration pressured it, and Biden came into office and initially was saying, we oppose the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The Germans really wanted to go ahead with this, and the Biden administration dropped their opposition to Nord Stream 2. I think there's this idea that, well, we'll make this as a unilateral concession, and if we do this, Putin and Russia will be more cooperative with us. Surprise! It didn't work out that way. Vladimir Putin was not any more cooperative or nice over this, and I think that the Biden administration ended up with egg on their face. They turned back to opposing Nord Stream 2, and it's worth noting that no gas has gone through it yet. Germany said a couple of days ago that they were halting the permitting process. Yeah, we're not going to let you go ahead with that paperwork there. That's going to slow you down. I know, Megyn, my attitude is, where are the eco-extremists when we need them? Now I've got a pipeline I'd really love to see them blow up. And I would not mind to see someone, wink, wink, blow that up to ensure that pipeline never gets completed or used to minimize this. And, oh, by the way, we should be developing all of our energy resources and saying, look, you don't need to be dependent upon this maniacal autocrat for your energy supplies. We're the United States of America. We got oil, we got shale, we got gas, we got wind, we got solar. Liquid natural gas. We're going to send oil to everybody who needs it, and we're not going to be bullies about it.
Yeah,
boy, it's a great opportunity. But hey, we got to save the world. Greta Thunberg says we can't do that. So,
hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.